saying is that us as Black Americans, we've done the work of unity.
Mhm.
And I get tired of the conversation being framed on what we need to do. No, H. Rat Brown got on stage and advocated for you all to immigrate here. We passed bills for you all to get as much immigration rights as the Jewish and every other culture to come to America. We done our part. You all get here and you separate yourself. That has nothing to do with African
Why do they
American.
Sorry.
separate?
I just think that at times, like the smoke don't really come from like regular black folk. A lot of times Africans they come to America and immediately they assume that they're superior to us at times. And it's like
That's
that
based up.
turns this,
That's not true. I've
Let me
never had that
let
experience.
me. I'm telling
I've,
you,
I've
no.
definitely had that experience.
You didn't
And
have
I've
a
had to
point.
humble some people.
Let me explain why. It's all based on upbringing. We have old school parents that teaching their kids, and this is known, not to mingle with African American, not to mingle with African Caribbean. That
Facts.
that's what they're telling their kids. Now they are those who are educated. Hear what I said? Educated. When you have an educated mind, you don't have the blockheaded mentality. Like some of these old school parents who are not really educated on that level. They'll be more open minded. They won't tell their kids such things. So you have to mixture of both.
Yeah, and my biggest thing too is like the biggest thing that I have smoked as far as like when they come here, they love to shit on our history. Like they'll talk about African history as if like okay, African history is the end all be all, and y'all history ain't really
And once
comparable to
again,
African.
I
And it's like in some aspects I get it, but at the same time, like you're not just gonna sit here and tell me somebody like Ida B. Wells from Black American
No, no, no,
history
no, no. Quan,
ain't
I
no.
think you're missing.
comparable
Quan,
to
I think the real issue is that, and this is something that blacks in America, especially the ones that know they have African descent, the real issue is that not that they downplay our experience. I'm Black American. I'm born, raised in New York. I'm two different parents. One is Black American, one's Jamaican. I'm in Africa. What I
mm,
need you to understand is Gilded Quan's history is African history. Your body being off of the continent in America producing is part of African history. It
and I
is.
agree. I agree,
Right.
but we
You
don't.
understand what I'm saying?
But we don't separate it. Africans separate it.
You're right about that. I'm gonna give you
We
that.
don't do the
African
separation.
Indian separate.
Let me
We as
explain
They
Black
why.
separate
Americans, no.
themselves.
Let me explain
You're
why.
right about that.
Let me explain
You're
why.
right.
I talked to Ward in Maya live early this year about the difference between African American here and the Caribbean and the African. I said first and foremost, if you
Oh, I
realize
love that.
African country or were colonized, what important to slavery, they were given a different type of mindset compared to those in America, those put through slavery. When a group of people who went through slavery compared to the people who going through colonization, their two ideologies to be put in play, but that was the plan from day one. As long as you keep people divided with different views, people will do that. In my country, this was told to me in my early 20s. Either I marry a woman from my tribe or I marry a European white woman. The first thing comes to my mind, why is a European white woman is acceptable? What's wrong with Caribbeans? What's wrong with African American? I had to do the research to get a deeper understanding where that ideology comes from. The younger generation are a little bit more open minded unless, keyword, unless their family is wealthy, they got an inheritance, and they don't want to lose it. If
And
you coming
see,
from a, and I know black people know that you see it out there. There are people coming from rich families that got long. When I talk about long legacy, they got inherited, they passed down from donation. No one want to get cut off from their heritage, so they had
Mhm.
to kiss up to their mom and pop. And sometimes they gotta take on their mom and pop ignorance, unless they had a way of changing it. That when you have old school people who are closed minded, it was no different having a racist here who is closed minded than other people's race. When you teach a different ideology, you call out a country for so long, and you put your own view of how things are supposed to be, people will end up adopting it,
And that's
and they will
that's
think
what I'm
somehow.
saying. Like
And
for
I've been the middle person who I get chewed out from both sides.
yeah.
I get chewed out from people in this country from African American. The same plow I get chewed out from people from my own country because I'm too Americanized.
But see, here's the thing: we never started that. Like when you go back into the history, you could just take the Black Panthers for example. They used to get
Hmm.
on stage and advocate for them to bring more Africans into the United States. Like we've always advocated
And you're
for
right.
you all. And what's
And you're
happened
right.
is that you all come here and immediately separate yourself from us. So
And then
that
the
has
reason,
Well,
and then,
hold on, but we got to be honest. Would you want to be in this culture right now?
huh?
Would you like to align with the shit that our culture celebrate if
But
you came from another country?
trucker,
Well, they don't have a choice,
I'm
trucker. That's
talking
the
about a
only
different
thing
I'm talking about a
I'm with
different
you.
era. We was the ones who advocated to get you here. And this
hmm
has been something that's been since the 70s, the 60s. And
It's not-
I
and
feel
you're
like
correct.
it's betrayal for
No,
for us to
but
put
here
our
what
lives on the
but
line
here the problem.
for
Yeah,
you to
let
get
me.
here just
But
to
here the
come
problem.
and shit on us. Like we've included you
Well,
all
Dude, that's not all
and
of
you
No,
them. You
no,
separate
gotta
no, no,
yourself as
I
too
want to.
no,
I
much.
want
Tuck,
to let
no,
you
Tuck.
know
Let
one
me help.
thing,
Let me help.
Juan.
Let me help
My
him
I
out.
want
thing
Let
to
me
let
help
is,
you
him
know
out.
where's
one
your
thing,
loyalty at that point?
person.
Hold on. Let me
I
help
want to
him
let
out
you
Well,
know
because
that's
one thing, Juan. In Atlanta, most black people that live in Atlanta and rent an apartment, most of their landlords are Africans from Nigeria,
facts.
Ghana, etc. So
Facts.
we do business with each other. I want you to understand there's a little bit more comfort between Africans, African Americans, and Caribbean because we recognize we're all we got. There's no way as an African you're gonna come from Africa and come to this here America and not have to go through this community because immediately when they see you, that's how they identify you because it's a racist country. So they don't really have a choice. They know that no matter who they claim they identify with, ultimately on that census it says black.
Well, I could tell you this. I know for a fact, I'm in DC. I know for a fact that in certain rooms they're black, and in certain rooms they're African.
African. Oh yeah, I know.
They're not.
I
I'm
even play
not
that
them.
game. I even play that game. Let me tell you something, Quan. No offense. It is a nice opportunity as a black person from America to be able to tote your race or to be able to tote your lineage or be able to tote your country. It is a beautiful thing that in some rooms I can switch and be a yachty. It's wonderful. It's a great gift.
Yeah, but what
So let's
happens
not
when?
be mad.
Okay, okay, and that's cool. But what happens when you have to pick a side? You all
I pick
when
black.
they're forced
I
to
pick black.
pick a
The
side,
side is black.
they
I pick black.
always go with the fact that they're African and not the fact that they're black. When they're
and
forced to pick a
They
side,
only do that in our community. But what I'm telling you is that that opportunity is only available when they're relating to us as Black Americans. But
let
it's
me
not
help.
available when they're relating to
Let me
Asians or
help
white
Quan
people.
with this.
but what I'm
Let me help Quan
saying
with this.
is,
Quan do have a point when he's saying that because I witnessed some of those things among my own people out here in Brooklyn.
Mhm.
When I remember that I said before, we have old school Nigerians that have what they call a one track mindset. They don't want to mingle or tell their young kid to do that. Now, mind you, Juan, you're not gonna believe this. I watched my sister get beat up for dating an African American boy or dating a Spanish boy. I watched other parents do almost the same exact thing to their kid because they don't want their kid to mingle with other race. Now, there were a very few who decided to go against the grain and be open minded about it. You get what I'm saying? It's a cultural thing. When people know, one, you need to understand. I get what you're coming from, and you do have a legit point. But when
Very.
you have people who are embedded with the culture from youth and repeat the same thing that we taught growing up, and they come over here, the first thing, unless they are what they call a free thinker or they think outside the box, they will follow their culture down to the T. That's no different from Jewish people. Jewish people in New York City don't believe in their people mingle with other race. that a guy who lives 2 blocks from us, his wife is black. He got
Yes,
kicked
all
out
over
for the
Bed
Jewish
Stuy,
community.
police for black girls, all over Bed Stuy, all
But
over.
listen,
And
all,
and they, and, they, and they do it undercover, boy. And they get caught. My wife would tell me a story how Jewish people come to this neighborhood undercover looking for black girls because they don't want their
Always.
leaders know what they were doing. If they get caught, they get exiled.
but
That is the thing that's going on.
all I'm saying is this: every time we frame this like we have to unify issue, they always come at the African Americans. When in all actuality, unity has nothing to do with us. It's the Africans that need to get on board with unity because they always separate themselves first. They'll
Then
tell you
fuck, man, man. Then fuck,
I'm not African
them.
American. I'm
What I'm
No,
saying is, Quan,
fuck.
I'm saying they
Listen,
could try their best to separate themselves, but I hope they understand how America works. It don't work like that. So you have to
they
forgive
And
can do
they
them.
whatever they
know,
want to
but
and
do.
that's
when
Because
it's
why
time
remember,
I
to
say,
we know
but
not what
and
to
that's
do.
why
whenever they're forced to make a decision, if there's an opportunity in front of them and they forced to make a decision, they're not gonna say, "Oh, I'm African American. I'm with the blacks." They're gonna say,
Sir,
I'm Ghanese. I'm
I'm going.
Chinese."
Listen, I don't listen.
When
But
it's
they
Just
gonna
time to
get,
be,
but
listen.
they gonna
whenever
get.
it's
Listen,
time to
we know
be,
you.
hold on. Whenever it's
This
time to be
listen.
black, or whenever it's time to face the consequences of being black,
Then they black.
all of a sudden you're African.
They have no. Well, listen.
So
Let me tell
it's
you
Listen,
I'm
something.
black until
I
I don't want to be black.
I don't care. Listen, I look. This is why I said fuck the rest. Give me the 10 to 20%. Who wants to do the right thing? I don't care if you. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna go to Africa one day, but I don't care where you from.
And can we stop calling it Africa? Like it's like how many countries in Africa?
it's,
It's
54.
Africa. The continent is Africa.
I mean, but still, like
54
why?
countries in Africa.
Like
yeah.
they from countries there. They're not from a whole continent, ain't they?
They're
The
not
No,
even
okay,
from
but
no,
those countries.
okay,
They're not
no,
even. You want
no,
to really get
no.
for real? They're not even from those
Technically,
countries. Me and CBN, we're not from the same tribe. I'm from a tribe called Hausa Fulani. He's from a
Like I
tribe.
never understood that. Like nobody ever says I'm from North America. We
We
say
mm,
we from whatever country
no.
we from.
What black people are saying totally correct. But if one be original, Africa used to be 5 kingdoms before they became countries.
yeah. So
The woman who was the former secretary of Africa was trying to educate the war was going on between the European and America when they got into hand to divide Africa into countries. It was five
that's what
kingdoms with different tribes. I'm for the
Ashanti,
Yoruba tribe.
Songhai,
Black people from the
Ashanti,
Hausa tribe.
Songhai,
But
Fulani. What are the other
in the
ones?
I forgot the rest, but when you come to Yoruba tribe, there are multiple dialects. Nigeria alone have 500 dialects. That means 500 different languages, which is crazy. Only in one country alone, mind you. And it's mostly divided into 3 tribes: the Yoruba, the Igbo, and the Hausa. The Hausa is in the north, the Yoruba
That's
in
us.
the southeast, while the Igbo in the southwest. So imagine all these tribal wars that have been going on for ages over old school beef that came from multiple generations. And some of the new young generation don't want to follow the beef, but it be forced upon the young generation based on lineage, what
The
family you're part
parents.
of. My last name, I'm part of the Ayanis. There are a lot of big people who have my same last name who are in government location, that are in corporate. When I tell another person who last name Ayani, know they ask me, what branch of Ayani are you from? That way you realize how
Mm-hmm.
big that family is.
Yeah, and with that, and given that history, why is it that they come here and they look at our beefs or what happens in our communities and they clutch their pearls? It's like y'all mofos been
Scary,
warring
nigga.
for
it's
what?
scary. We do a lot of
Y'all been
black
warring
people.
for
We gotta be
thousands of
honest.
years, and you come to America
Quan,
and judge
Quan,
us.
You got a point. Remember what I said? These old school parents who will have a one-track mind. They look at how you conduct yourself.
But
They look no,
okay,
Quan, no.
dude,
Before you go,
dude,
listen.
you walk outside and look like what the fuck you doing?
No,
exactly.
Exactly. It's
But
crazy
if
in our
No,
okay,
community,
no, no.
Quan. These
if
You see that with our own people, so why shouldn't they see the same
but
thing?
trucker,
niggas
you
don't
if
be
you come
niggas
from a
in
culture of
America.
black on black crime in Africa, you can't come to America and all of a sudden clutch your pearls when you see black on black crime. Where you think we got it from?
You gonna
okay.
clutch your pearls regardless. I don't care if it's in Africa too. I'm gonna be clutching too.
I'm just saying.
No,
It don't
Your
matter where
history
you, bro.
doesn't
I don't
go
care.
back.
You go to
the
Australia and it's
crime
the
in
I
same
was in
shit.
Africa.
Germany. There were places I felt uncomfortable as a black woman by myself with my homegirl. Sometimes I felt uncomfortable and I clutched my pearls in Germany.
Well, here's the thing: the crime in Africa are mostly political and tribal than what you see over here.
I get
Real
it, but
talk.
don't pretend like the history of the shit ain't come from y'all.
It
Man,
did.
come on, bro. Come on, man. Come on,
No,
Listen,
dog.
Trucker, no, Trucker, you got to give it his point. I
listen,
cannot
Quan. I
argue.
invite
I'm
you,
a middle guy.
Quan.
I get the
Quan.
argument. I
I
get what he's
invite
coming
you
from.
to I invite you to just you see, Quan, I understand everything you're saying, and that is a very typical Black American question, and it needs to be addressed. It's the missing link between Africans and African Americans and this African diaspora doing cross-continental trade. Right? We've got 3 continents that we need to maintain. We've got South America, Brazil, we've got Africa, and we've got America. The missing link is us apologizing to one another. There are people from my tribe that owe people from CBN's tribe an apology. There are people from my tribe that owe you an apology because you're probably some of the people that we sold. All right? I am owed an apology. Why the fuck am I even over there as a Fulani? Why? How did I even end up over there when I'm part of the tribe that does the selling? How? So these are questions that Black people we must address, but right now we don't have time because we have a beast to fight. We must get in order. We don't have time to fight in-house by ourselves anymore. We don't have time for that anymore. What we must do is
Facts.
we must build our intercontinental trade. We'll talk about that in another 100 years. We'll
Mhm.
get to that later. It's not important right now. What's
And I
important is what's important is don't be afraid. Come to Africa. You need to come. Call me. I have people, several gentlemen that can take you. I can have you in Kenya. I can have you in Sierra Leone. I can have you in Tanzania. I could have you in a lot of different places. Call me. What I'm
and I
saying is there are gateways now. Let us not be afraid of one another. Drop that. Deal with that later. Is what I'm
I
saying.
get
Thank
that.
you. Thank
All I'm
you.
saying is that us as black Americans, we've done the work of unity.
Mhm.
And I get tired of the conversation being framed on what we need to do. No, H. Rat Brown got on stage and advocated for you all to immigrate here. We passed bills for you all to get as much immigration rights as the
Oh,
Jewish and every other culture to come to America. We done our part. You all get here and you separate yourself. That has nothing to do with
Well,
African
why do they
American.
sorry.
separate
So,
themselves?
That has something
exactly.
to do with
Why
who
do they
we allow
separate
us.
themselves?